Before the story starts, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
The morning began like any other. Soft sunlight moved slowly across the quiet street. Tree leaves danced gently in the wind. Birds sang without fear. Nothing felt wrong. At the end of the street stood a clean, peaceful house. White walls. A small front yard. A simple gate that opened with a soft metal sound. This house had no problems. At least, not yet. Inside, the husband stood in the kitchen. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air. He looked relaxed. It was Sunday. No work. No stress. He poured coffee into a mug and glanced at the clock. Still early. Outside, his wife stepped through the front door. She wore simple clothes. No makeup. No hurry. Just a normal day. She held her car keys in one hand and her phone in the other. She planned to go to the store and come back before noon. She had lived in this neighborhood for 3 years. She knew every street. Every rule. Every neighbor. She opened the gate slowly. The metal made a small sound. That sound changed everything. From the corner of the street, footsteps appeared. Fast. Heavy. She looked up. A man was walking toward her. He walked with purpose. His shoulders were straight. His chin was raised. Too confident. He wore a dark jacket with big white letters on it. HOA. The letters were bold. Clear. Easy to see. The badge on his chest reflected the sunlight. But something felt off. The wife paused. The man stopped just a few feet from the gate. He raised his hand suddenly. Stop! His voice cut through the calm air like a blade. The birds flew away. The wife froze for a moment. Her heart skipped. She looked at him carefully. Yes, she asked politely. The man stepped closer. Close enough to block the gate. You cannot enter, he said loudly. This is private property. She blinked. Confused. She pointed behind her, toward the house. This is my home, she said calmly. The man laughed. Not a friendly laugh. Not a normal one. It was sharp. Cold. I am HOA, he said. You broke the rules. The wife felt a strange chill. What rules? She asked. The man crossed his arms like a judge. You did not show your HOA entry pass, he said. You need approval. The wife kept her voice steady. I live here, she replied. I don't need permission to enter my own house. The man's smile vanished. His face tightened. You think you're smart, he said. I know everyone here. He stepped closer. Too close. She could smell his breath now. She took one step back. The badge on his jacket caught her eye again. No name. No number. Just plastic. She swallowed and asked, Can I see your official HOA ID? That question changed his mood. His jaw clenched. I don't have to show you anything, he snapped. I am the authority. His voice grew louder. Angrier. Windows opened. Curtains moved. Neighbors were watching now. The wife noticed. She felt nervous, but she did not show it. I am calling my husband, she said. The man smirked. Call anyone you want, he replied. You are not going anywhere. He placed his hand on the gate. Then he pushed it shut. The metal slammed closed. The sound echoed through the street. Her heart started racing. This is harassment, she said. The man leaned closer. His eyes were dark. You people move into nice places, he said. And think you own everything. She backed toward her car. Her keys shook in her hand. Above them, a small security camera blinked quietly. Inside the house, the husband heard shouting. He paused. He walked toward the hallway screen. The live camera feed showed everything. His wife. The man. The gate. His face changed. Outside, the fake HOA man kept talking. You broke parking rules. You broke entry rules. You people never listen. The wife stayed silent now. She waited. The man pointed his finger inches from her face. This is your final warning, he said. Leave now. No, she replied quietly. This is my home. That word made him snap. He moved fast. Too fast. His hand reached out. He grabbed her arm. Not hard enough to injure, but hard enough to cross a line. The street gasped. Phones came out. The wife froze for 1 second. Then she pulled away. Don't touch me, she screamed. Her voice echoed through the houses. The man stepped back. Then smiled. I'll call the police, he said. But he didn't move. Didn't dial. Didn't do anything. Inside the house, the husband's hands clenched. He watched in silence. Outside, the wife stood tall. The calm morning was gone. Fear had entered the street. And no one knew yet. This was only the beginning. The street was quiet at first. Too quiet. The calm that had filled the morning was gone. It felt heavier now, like something invisible had settled over the houses. The fake HOA man stood at the gate, chest out, chin up. He believed he owned the street. He believed that fear gave him power. And in that moment, he did not notice how wrong he was. The wife held her keys tightly. Her arms still tingled from the grab. Her heart was racing, but her face remained calm. She did not scream. She did not beg. She waited. The man took a step closer. Too close. His shoes touched the edge of the driveway. The air between them seemed to thicken. You see, he said loudly. His voice echoed through the empty street. No one dares to challenge HOA. The wife said nothing. She simply held her ground. Her eyes never left his. The man smirked. It was not a smile of kindness. It was a challenge. A dare. This is your last warning, he said. Leave, or face consequences. She tilted her head. Calmly. I live here, she said. This is my home. Those words made him pause. Just for a second. It was enough. He clenched his fists. The tension in his body grew. He took another step closer. Do you know who I am? He demanded. I am the HOA authority. I enforce the rules. You cannot question me. The wife took a slow, deep breath. You're not authority, she said softly. You're just a man hiding behind a badge. His eyes widened slightly. Then narrowed. What did you say? He spat. You dare question me? The neighbors had begun to notice. Some peeked from windows. Some stepped outside, quietly filming. A few held their phones up, uncertain whether to intervene. The man noticed the cameras. A flash of irritation crossed his face. He tried to cover it with a louder, harsher voice. You people think you own this place, he yelled. You break the rules, you ignore orders, and you disrespect HOA. The wife's voice remained calm. Her hands were firm on her keys. No! I respect rules. But rules do not give you the right to touch me. That sentence seemed to make him tremble inside. But he refused to show weakness. Instead, he slammed his hand onto the gate. The metal clanged loudly. The sound was sharp. It startled a passing dog. The dog barked and ran down the street. He pointed a finger at her, inches from her face. Do you understand? You leave now, he shouted. She stepped back slowly. Her back pressed against the cool metal of the car. Her eyes never wavered. I will not leave, she said. This is my home. And you will not scare me. His face turned red. Veins bulged in his neck. He raised his voice again. Then I will call the police. They will support me. He pulled out his phone. His thumb hovered above the screen. He did not dial. He did not call. He was frozen by something he did not yet understand. Inside the house, the husband's face was stone cold. He had seen enough. The camera feed showed every move. Every word. Every hostile step the fake HOA man took. The husband's eyes narrowed. His jaw clenched. He did not rush outside. Not yet. The wife, sensing the calm strength behind the house, stood taller. Her fear melted into determination. The man, however, did not notice. He saw only the small, silent woman in front of him. He saw only the street, the empty sidewalks, the quiet neighbors. He saw himself in control. He reached out suddenly. His hand grabbed her arm again. Not enough to hurt, but enough to frighten. She pulled back sharply. Don't touch me, she screamed. The sound cut through the morning air. It echoed off the walls of the neighboring houses. Birds flew from the trees. The street gasped. Phones flashed, recording. Every move, every word was captured. The man's face shifted from confidence to panic. He took another step back. Then smiled. A fake, forced smile. I am just doing my job, he said. I am helping this neighborhood. But his voice had no power. It cracked. Inside, the husband finally moved. Slowly, deliberately, he walked toward the door. He stepped outside, each step measured, calm. Silent, strong, certain. The man's smile faltered. He did not know who stood at the bottom of the steps. He did not know the strength he faced. The husband stopped a few feet away. He looked at the man. Then at his wife. Are you okay? He asked softly. The wife nodded. Her hand touched his arm. A small gesture. But enough. The man laughed nervously. I am HOA. I control this area, he shouted. You cannot stop me. The husband tilted his head slightly. He looked at the man with quiet confidence. Show me your ID, he said. The man froze. His mouth opened, then closed. His hand twitched. I don't have to, he stammered. The husband's eyes shifted toward the camera. The blink of the small red light was clear. This already shows enough, he said. The man's hands shook. He looked around. Neighbors filmed him. The cameras recorded. His confidence crumbled. You touched my wife, the husband said calmly. You were trespassing. The fake HOA man stepped back, voice trembling. You can't prove anything, he shouted. The husband pulled out his phone. Pressed a single button. The screen came alive. The recording. Clear. Unedited. The man's actions. His words. His threat. The neighbors gasped. The fake HOA man's face drained of color. His voice faltered. He tried to speak. No one listened. For the first time, he realized. He had chosen the wrong house. The wrong woman. The wrong family. The street, once quiet and calm, now held a tension that felt almost alive. It watched silently, waiting for what would come next. And in that moment, the morning that had begun so peacefully was gone. Replaced by fear. By courage. By a reckoning that no one could ignore. The street held its breath. The sun climbed slowly in the sky, but its warmth could not touch the tension that had settled over the neighborhood. The fake HOA man still stood at the gate, chest heaving, fists clenched. He believed he was in control. He believed the fear he created would protect him. He was wrong. The wife's hands were steady now. Her pulse thumped quietly in her chest, but her face betrayed nothing. She did not flinch. She did not beg. She waited. Her eyes shifted subtly toward the house. Inside, behind the living room window, her husband watched. He did not rush. He did not yell. He observed. Every step the fake HOA man took. Every word that left his mouth. Every lie, every threat. The camera feed showed everything. The grab. The push. The smirk. The false confidence. The husband's jaw tightened. His hands rested calmly at his sides, but his mind raced. He knew exactly what needed to happen. Outside, the fake HOA man was pacing. His voice rose and fell like a storm. "You think you own this place," he shouted. "You people break rules, disrespect HOA, and think no one can stop you." The wife tilted her head. "Stop shouting," she said quietly. Her words carried weight far beyond their sound. The streets seemed to notice. Even the wind paused. The fake HOA man froze for a brief second. Then he laughed, a short, sharp laugh, forced, brittle. "You are just a small woman," he spat. "You cannot control me." She took a slow, deliberate step forward. Her keys jingled faintly in her hand. "You cannot touch me," she said softly. "You have no authority here." Her calmness was a mirror reflecting all the fear he tried to hide. The man's face twisted. "I will call the police," he screamed. He fumbled with his phone, thumb hovering over the screen. But he did not call. He could not. Something told him it was too late. Inside, the husband moved. Slowly. Deliberately. He opened the front door. The hinges creaked. It was a small sound, but in the silence of the street, it roared. The fake HOA man did not notice at first. He was too absorbed in the argument. But when he finally turned, the man standing at the top of the steps made him freeze. Tall. Calm. Silent. The husband's presence shifted the air. It was invisible, but undeniable. Power was no longer with the man at the gate. He took a step down. Slow. Measured. Every eye in the street followed him. The wife's hand brushed against his arm. A small gesture, but it anchored her courage. The fake HOA man opened his mouth. I am HOA. I am the authority. The husband tilted his head slightly. "You are neither," he said. "Step back." The fake HOA man's hands twitched. "I control this area," he shouted. "You cannot stop me." The husband's eyes did not move. He did not raise his voice. Yet every word he would speak felt heavier than the man's shouting. "Show me your ID," he said simply. The fake man's blood ran cold. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. No words. The husband's gaze shifted slowly toward the security camera. The red light blinked faintly. "This already proves everything," he said. The neighbors gasped. Some held their phones high. Some whispered quietly. All eyes were on the man who had tried to rule the street. The fake HOA man's confident smile vanished. He was panicked now. His hands shook. His voice faltered. "You can't prove anything," he shouted. The husband's fingers pressed a button on his phone. The screen lit up. The video played. Clear. Unedited. Every motion. Every word. The man's hand grabbing her arm. The push at the gate. The threats. The shouting. The neighbors watched in silence. The fake HOA man's face turned white. His knees felt weak. He tried to speak, but no words came. You chose the wrong house, the husband said quietly. You chose the wrong family. The fake man took a step back, almost stumbling. He looked around. The neighbors were filming. The camera was recording. Every lie, every threat, every fake act of power was captured forever. The air felt heavy. The tension was electric. He reached for his phone again. He wanted backup. He wanted help. He wanted to disappear. But the calm, steady presence of the husband kept him frozen. Every instinct told him he had lost. And he had. The wife took a small step forward. Her voice was quiet but firm. Leave. Now. The fake HOA man's face twisted. He tried one last desperate shout. I control this place. The husband shook his head slowly. You control nothing, he said. The man's hands fell to his sides. He looked around helplessly. Every neighbor recording. Every camera watching. And in that moment, he understood the truth. He had picked the wrong street. The wrong house. The wrong family. The morning that began with birds singing and sunlight streaming had been shattered. Fear had entered the street. But courage had arrived too. The wife exhaled slowly. Her arm was free. Her gaze was steady. The husband's presence was like a shield. And the fake HOA man could see it. He could feel it. He could not escape it. Silence fell over the street. Not the quiet of peace. The heavy silence of realization. Of power shifting. Of someone finally standing up to lies and threats. And though the fake HOA man tried to retreat, the street watched. Every neighbor. Every window. Every camera. The message was clear. You do not scare those who know the truth. You do not control those who have courage. And you never, ever, mess with the wrong family. The morning would never be the same. The street would never forget. The stage was set for what came next. And the fake HOA man had no idea how far he had fallen. The street had grown quiet again. Not the calm of morning, but the heavy silence of fear and tension. The air was thick. Every neighbor's eyes peered from windows, every phone camera pointed toward the house. The fake HOA man stood at the gate, chest rising and falling quickly, hands trembling ever so slightly. He thought he still controlled the situation. He was wrong. From the end of the street, a low rumble began. The sound of tires rolling over asphalt. The flashing of blue and red lights reflected off the houses. Police. The man froze. The badge on his chest felt heavier than it had all morning. A heavy, meaningless piece of plastic. The first officer stepped out of the car. Tall. Calm. Observant. Eyes sharp. No rush. No panic. What's going on here? The officer asked. His voice carried authority without aggression. The fake HOA man stepped forward quickly. He always spoke first. This woman broke HOA rules, he shouted. She attacked me. She refused to follow orders. The wife stood silently beside her husband. Her arms still tingled from the earlier grab. Her gaze was steady. She did not need to argue. The officer's eyes fell on the plastic badge on the man's chest. HOA, he asked, calm but direct. Yes, the man said quickly, trying to hide the tremble in his voice. I am in charge. I enforce the rules. The officer raised a hand. May I see your ID? He asked. The man's confident facade faltered. I left it at home, he stammered. The officer's eyes did not blink. That's a problem, he said. He looked around at the street, at the blinking cameras, at the neighbors quietly recording. You can't just claim authority. You need proof. The husband stepped forward slightly, not aggressively, just enough to be seen. "This is our property," he said. The man blocked the gate and grabbed my wife. The officer turned toward the wife. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. "Not badly," she said, her voice steady. But he crossed the line. The officer's gaze returned to the fake HOA man. "Step away," he said. The man waved his hands, shaking his head. "I am HOA. I have authority," he shouted. "Your badge means nothing," the officer said calmly. "Without ID or record, you have no authority here." The man's hands trembled. He tried to appear strong. I was just enforcing the rules," he said, voice cracking. The officer's hand moved toward the radio on his belt. "I need backup," he said calmly. His tone left no room for argument. Neighbors whispered among themselves. Some pointed to their phones, filming silently. The tension in the street was nearly tangible. The husband, still calm, lifted his phone. A single button pressed. The video from the front camera played on full screen. The screen showed everything. The grab. The shove. The threats. The shouting. Every lie, every attempt to intimidate, captured in crystal clear footage. The fake HOA man's face went pale. That's not me," he stuttered. His voice was weak, brittle. "I wasn't. I didn't." The officer shook his head slowly. "Step away from them. Now." The man's confidence crumbled entirely. He looked around. No one supported him. Every neighbor watching. Every camera recording. "Please," he whispered, almost pleading. "I was just trying to help." The officer moved closer. Helping? By touching someone? By blocking their property? By lying? His voice was low, deliberate. "No! That is not helping." The man's eyes darted. He backed up slightly. The red and blue reflections from the police car lights made his fake badge gleam, but it was hollow, meaningless. The officer bent down and picked up the plastic badge from the ground. He turned it over in his hand. "Plastic," he said softly, almost to himself. "No name. No number. Fake authority. Nothing." The neighbors whispered. Some shook their heads. Others simply stared, stunned. The fake HOA man's lips quivered. I am doing my job," he shouted one last time. But even he could hear the cracks in his own voice. The officer's hand went to his cuffs. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." Time seemed to slow. The man's knees felt weak. He looked at the street. Neighbors were watching. Phones recorded everything. His power was gone. Slowly, reluctantly, he obeyed. Click. The handcuffs closed around his wrists. A sharp sound. Final. He hung his head. I just. The officer shook his head. "You had no right. You had no authority. This is harassment. And now it ends." The fake HOA man's eyes flicked toward the husband and wife. The calm, firm presence of both of them crushed whatever pride he had left. A neighbor stepped forward. "He did this before," she whispered. To others, another neighbor added. The officer nodded. "You're not the first, and you won't be the last to face consequences," he said. The police car door opened. The man was led away. No resistance. No excuses left that could hold weight. The wife held her husband's hand. Her small gesture anchored the triumph, the calm, the relief. The neighbors began to speak quietly among themselves. Some offered apologies. Others offered thanks. The fake HOA man looked back one last time. The street he thought he ruled. The neighborhood he thought he controlled. The door of the police car closed. He was gone. His lies, his threats, and his fake power were gone too. The air shifted. Peace returned slowly. But the street would never forget. The wife exhaled, her shoulders finally relaxing. The husband squeezed her hand. "You were brave," he said softly. "We both were," she replied. And in that quiet moment, one truth lingered. Power without truth is meaningless. Fear without justice is fragile. And karma always finds its way. The street would remember this day forever. The morning that began with a fake badge and threats ended with courage, calm, and the simple truth. The right family. The right home. And the wrong man. The plastic badge lay on the ground, dull and meaningless. The fake HOA man stared at it. It had been his symbol of power all morning. Now, it felt heavy. Worthless. Exposed. The street was silent. Every neighbor watched. Every phone camera pointed toward him. Even the wind seemed to pause, waiting for what would happen next. He looked at the officer. The calm authority. The clear, unwavering presence. His heart pounded, but he tried to hide it. This isn't fair," he whispered. The officer didn't answer. He only observed. Patient. Deliberate. Unyielding. "You lied," the officer said. "You claimed authority you don't have. You harassed a resident. You trespassed. And now, you face consequences." The fake HOA man opened his mouth. I'm just doing my job," he cried. "I help the neighborhood. I enforce rules." The officer shook his head slowly. "Without ID? Without permission? Without truth? You have no job here. Only lies. And now those lies end." The neighbors whispered. Some gasped. Some nodded quietly, relieved. The truth had been revealed. The wife stood quietly beside her husband. Her arms still tingled slightly from the earlier grab, but her posture was strong. Her eyes met her husband's. A small nod passed between them. They were a team. They had protected their home. The officer moved closer. "Hands behind your back," he said. Time seemed to stretch. The fake HOA man's knees wobbled. He glanced at the street. Neighbors were filming. Cameras recorded every second. His power had vanished. Slowly, reluctantly, he complied. Click. The sound of the handcuffs closing echoed louder than any shout he had made all morning. Final. Absolute. He hung his head. I was just trying to help, he mumbled, voice trembling. No, the officer said calmly. You were trying to control. You were trying to scare. You were lying. That is not helping. The man's eyes darted nervously. He glanced at the neighbors, their faces staring, some recording. Every attempt to intimidate had failed. Every lie was exposed. One neighbor stepped forward. He did this before, she said quietly. Two others, added another, her voice shaking slightly. The officer nodded. Which explains a lot, he said. You won't do this again. Or you will answer for it. The fake HOA man tried to speak again. I. But no one listened. The police car door opened. He was led toward it. Step by step. Click. Click. The handcuffs jingled softly. Every step was a reminder of failure. The officer led him to the car. The neighbors watched quietly. Some whispered. Some shook their heads. Some simply recorded. The fake HOA man turned toward the street one last time. The place he had thought he ruled. The neighborhood he had tried to dominate. All gone. The car door slammed. The engine started. He was gone. The street exhaled slowly. The tension began to dissipate. But the memory would remain. The wife held her husband's hand. He squeezed it gently. "You were brave," he said softly. "We both were," she replied. The street, once tense and fearful, now held a new energy. Respect. Relief. Courage. Neighbors began talking quietly, sharing what they had seen, realizing they were no longer alone. The officer returned to his car. "Everything is under control now," he said. "His lies end here. Your safety continues." The couple stood at the gate. The sunlight had shifted. The day felt different. The air lighter. The neighbors' whispers grew. Finally, one said, "Truth wins," another added. The wife exhaled slowly. Her posture relaxed. Her gaze swept the street. Everything felt real. Safe. Honest. The husband looked at her. "You changed the street today," he said softly. She shook her head. "No. Truth changed it," she replied. The street had learned a lesson. Power built on lies was fragile. Fear could be exposed. And when courage stands strong, even the loudest voice could be silenced. The couple watched the police car disappear down the street. The fake HOA man's shadow faded. His control ended. The street returned to its calm. Not the naive calm of mourning, but the strong calm of justice. For the first time in years, the neighborhood felt safe again. The wife took a deep breath. The husband squeezed her hand once more. They looked at each other and smiled softly. The morning that began with lies, threats, and a plastic badge ended with courage, truth, and justice. The fake HOA man's attempt to control the street had failed completely. Every neighbor knew it. Every camera proved it. And karma had arrived. The couple stepped inside the gate, hand in hand. Their home was theirs again. Protected. Safe. The street would remember this day. Forever. The lesson was clear. You cannot fake power. You cannot intimidate truth. And you should never touch someone's life without consequence. The sun shone down, warmer now. Not a reminder of fear, but a symbol of safety, of courage, of justice finally served. The neighborhood had changed. Stronger, wiser, united. And the fake HOA man? Gone. Exposed. Defeated. The street was quiet again. Not the quiet of fear or tension. Not the uneasy quiet of waiting. This was a different quiet. A quiet that felt heavy, like the air was exhaling after a long, held breath. The police car had gone. The fake HOA man had disappeared from sight, his lies, threats, and plastic badge left behind as evidence of his failure. Neighbors slowly stepped out of their homes. One by one, cautiously, their faces curious, their voices hushed. They looked at each other. At the house. At the couple who had just faced the storm and stood victorious. The wife sat on the front steps, her posture steady, her hands clasped in her lap. Her arms still tingled slightly from the earlier grab, a reminder of the confrontation. Her face was calm. But inside, a storm of relief and pride swirled. The husband stood beside her, hands folded behind his back, eyes scanning the street. Silent. Protective. Strong. He had watched the entire confrontation unfold. He had remained calm, deliberate, and patient. And now, he exhaled slowly, knowing the danger had passed. A neighbor, a woman in her 40s, stepped forward first. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, her voice shaking. "I saw everything. I should have done something sooner." Another neighbor nodded. "He yelled at me last month," she said. "I thought he had authority. I didn't know he was lying." A man from across the street added, "He scared my kids. They were too afraid to play outside." The wife listened quietly, her eyes softening. She understood now that this was bigger than just her and her husband. The fake HOA man had been spreading fear for a long time. And today, finally, the truth had come out. The husband spoke, his voice calm but firm. "This isn't just about us," he said. "This street, our neighborhood, it belongs to all of us. No one should live in fear." The neighbors looked at each other. A ripple of understanding moved through the crowd. The stories they had kept quiet for too long now had a voice. Their fear, their frustration, their anger, all validated by the courage of the couple. A new neighbor, who had just moved in, asked quietly, "Will it come back?" The wife shook her head. "No. Not if we all stand together. Not if we remember this day." The husband looked at the blinking camera near the front door. "It recorded everything," he said. "Every word, every action. No one can lie now." The HOA officer finally arrived later that day. A real officer, with a clean badge, proper ID, and authority that could not be faked. He walked slowly, observing the neighborhood, noting the whispers, the nervous glances, the silent admiration for the couple. "That man is not with us," the officer said firmly. "He never was." Anger flared in the neighbor's eyes. "How did he fool us?" one asked. "How did he scare us so easily?" another whispered. The officer answered calmly. "Fear is powerful," he said. "People believe in authority when it is loud. But authority without truth is meaningless." The wife nodded slowly, understanding the weight of his words. "But power without truth falls," she said softly. "And when courage stands, fear has no place." The officer smiled. "We will ensure this street is safe," he said. "New rules, proper identification, clear communication. No one can use lies or intimidation here again." The sun began to descend, casting long shadows across the street. The warm light reflected off the windows, the gates, and the camera lenses. Everything felt different now. The tension of the morning had been replaced with a sense of relief. Not just for the couple, but for the entire neighborhood. The wife stood and stretched slowly. Her arm, once tingling from the confrontation, felt lighter. Her eyes scanned the street, meeting the eyes of neighbors. Some smiled. Some nodded. Some waved. The husband held her hand, their fingers intertwined. "You were brave today," he said quietly. She shook her head. "We both were," she replied. Their unity had been the shield, the strength, the anchor that protected their home. The street, once tense and fearful, now held a new energy. An energy of respect, courage, and truth. A new family moved in a few days later. They asked the neighbors about the street. "What is it like to live here?" they asked cautiously. A neighbor answered simply, "This is a safe place. People protect each other here." The wife heard the words. A small smile crossed her face. She understood that the street had changed forever. Not just because the fake HOA man was gone, but because the courage of two people had shown the entire neighborhood that truth and bravery could overcome fear. The husband looked at his wife, admiration shining in his eyes. "You changed this place," he said softly. She shook her head again. "No," she replied. "Truth changed it." The front gate, once a symbol of vulnerability, now felt like a shield. The walls of the home, once threatened, now radiated safety. And the quiet street had learned a lesson it would never forget. Power built on lies is fragile. Fear can be exposed. And courage always shines through. The sun dipped lower, painting the neighborhood in gold and amber. Shadows stretched across the sidewalks, across the gates, across the cameras that had captured everything. The morning's chaos was gone. Replaced with peace. With calm. With the quiet strength of people who refused to be intimidated. The wife exhaled, finally releasing the tension she had held for hours. The husband squeezed her hand gently. Together, they looked at the street, knowing it was theirs to protect, not with power, not with fear, but with courage and truth. The street, once tense, now whispered a new story. A story of justice, bravery, and the victory of truth over lies. And somewhere in the shadows, the lesson lingered. Authority without honesty is nothing. Fear without courage is fragile. And a neighborhood united can never be broken. The couple stepped inside the gate, hand in hand. The day had ended not with fear or threats, but with the quiet triumph of truth. The street had remembered. The neighborhood had remembered. And the power of courage had finally spoken. Weeks passed. The sun rose and set over the neighborhood, gentle and steady, as if nothing had happened. Yet the street remembered. Every tree, every gate, every corner seemed to whisper the events of that fateful day. The couple's home stood calm and serene, white walls shining under the morning light. Nothing moved in the yard, yet the energy felt different. The house was no longer just a structure of wood and bricks, it was a fortress of courage. Neighbors emerged from their homes more often now, smiling at one another, exchanging brief nods, laughter, and greetings. The tension that had once filled the air was gone. Replaced by trust. By respect. By a quiet understanding that this neighborhood would never again be ruled by fear. The wife walked through the front gate one morning. Her steps were slow, deliberate, and steady. Each footfall on the pavement echoed lightly in the empty street. She paused, taking a deep breath, feeling the cool morning air on her face. She had changed, she realized. Not just in courage, but in confidence. A new strength had settled in her chest, one that could not be shaken by threats or lies. Her husband followed behind her. Hands clasped loosely behind his back. Eyes scanning the street. Ever vigilant, yet at peace. He had learned the same truth she had: protection comes not from fear, not from shouting, but from calm, deliberate courage. From the corner of the street, children play freely. No longer afraid of strange men claiming false authority. Their laughter bounced off the houses, a reminder that life was returning to normal. But the memory of the past lingered, not as trauma, but as a lesson etched into the very foundation of the neighborhood. A neighbor approached, a young woman who had been timid and hesitant before. She smiled at the couple. "You know," she said softly, "I always wondered if anyone would ever stand up. You too, you changed everything." The wife smiled, a small, knowing smile. "We didn't change it alone," she said. "The street changed too, when people stopped being afraid." The husband nodded, his gaze resting on the small blinking camera at the gate. "It recorded everything," he said. "And now the truth will always be visible. Lies cannot hide here anymore." Later that day, the real HOA officer visited. A proper badge, proper credentials, a calm and authoritative presence that could not be faked. He walked slowly, taking in the neighborhood, observing the subtle smiles, the quiet nods, the growing confidence of the residents. "That man who threatened you was never part of the HOA," the officer said firmly. "He never had authority. He was using fear and lies to control people. That ends now." The neighbors murmured in agreement, some shaking their heads, some finally speaking aloud what they had only whispered before. "Fear can be loud," the officer continued, "but truth is louder. Courage is louder. And it always wins." The wife stepped forward, her voice calm but strong. "Power without truth is fragile," she said. "And lies can only last until someone stands up to them." The officer nodded. "Exactly. And this neighborhood has now proven that. Rules will be clear, communication will be open, and no one can intimidate anyone here again." The couple stood hand in hand, looking down the quiet street. The sunlight had shifted, casting long, warm shadows across the houses and gates. The morning's chaos and the tension of weeks past had been replaced with calm, stability, and the knowledge that justice had prevailed. A new family moved in shortly after. They asked a neighbor about the street, cautious, curious. "What is it like to live here?" they asked. A resident smiled warmly. "This is a safe place," she said. "People look out for one another. And if anyone tries to lie or intimidate, they'll be exposed." The wife listened, her lips curving into a small smile. The street had changed forever, not just because the fake HOA man had been caught, but because truth and courage had won. The husband looked at his wife, admiration in his eyes. You changed the street, he said softly. She shook her head gently. No, she replied. Truth changed it. Together, they walked back through the gate. The front door closed behind them with a soft click, a symbol of safety restored. The neighbors continued to whisper, sharing their stories of fear and the relief of having it lifted. They laughed quietly. They smiled at each other. They had been reminded of a simple, enduring lesson. Power built on lies is fragile. Fear can be exposed. And courage always has the final word. As the sun began to set, painting the street in gold and amber, the shadows stretched long and peaceful. The gate, once a symbol of vulnerability, now felt like a shield. The house, once threatened, now radiated security. And the neighborhood, once fearful, now thrived on trust, bravery, and the knowledge that truth always wins. The wife took a deep breath, releasing the tension she had carried for weeks. The husband squeezed her hand gently, their eyes meeting in silent acknowledgement. They had stood together. They had protected their home. They had inspired a neighborhood. The street, once tense and silent, now told a story. A story of courage. A story of truth. A story of ordinary people standing up against lies and fear and winning. And somewhere in the quiet, the moral of the story lingered. Authority without honesty is meaningless. Fear without courage is fragile. And a neighborhood united can never be broken. The couple stepped inside their home, hand in hand. The day had ended not with threats, not with fear, but with justice, courage, and peace. The street had remembered. The neighborhood had remembered. And the lesson of truth and bravery would echo for years to come. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. The houses glowed softly. The wind whispered through the trees. And the street, finally calm and secure, held its head high, proud of what it had witnessed. The fake HOA man was gone. Exposed. Defeated. And the neighborhood, forever stronger for the courage of two people, would never forget.
Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed it.